I never say no to presentations like this. It's always fun to engage with the community. So you would ask me just to tell my story of how I got here. And so it's been a journey. I was just reflecting on this earlier today. I've been in Halifax now close to 7 years. It's incredible how fast time flies when you just got your head down and you're working and you're doing your thing and you're just trying to keep ahead of bills and keep ahead of everything. And then you just look and say, wow, like, look at how many years have gone. So I'll begin with where I started. So I was living in Quebec. I was in Montreal. I was working in the electronics industry, microchips, semiconductors, tiny little components. And I was managing all of this inventory, and it was very, very stressful. I was programming systems and just making sure things were getting from point A to point B. I was quite literally looking after about $25 million a month in electronic semiconductors. So it was very stressful, but I loved it. I was very good at it. And then as time went on, it got a little more tedious and a little more stressful, and a little more, as you get older, you start to think to yourself, where am I going with all of this? What's going on? Like, I'm enjoying myself, but is this forever? And I kind of said, no, I'm not really happy with what I'm doing. So then I started saying, I have to find something else. Now, both my parents have been entrepreneurs all their lives. They were selling in flea markets and antiques. They were selling antiques. My father was a coin dealer, stamp dealer, all sorts of things. So we were very used to this sort of idea in the household growing up. And my parents, they were mostly doing it just to get by. My father was laid off in his 40s. He used to sell false teeth. And that industry kind of went the way of the dodos. People stopped getting dentures so much and started taking care of their teeth. That was kind of the transition in the 70s. And so he was always working for himself. He started selling sanitary products and like soaps and things like that. And so he had a little factory, which I worked in when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I mean, move boxes here and there, things like that. So my father was always reminding me of that, saying, one day you should open your own business. You should do something. So the funniest thing is that he would tell me at work, just look around. Maybe there's things the company doesn't have, things that you could start just saying, well, if this big company doesn't have a supply of paper, let's say, or it could be components, electronics, things like that. And so I said to my father, it's impossible to figure this out. I'm trying. There's quite literally billions of parts that they sell at this company. There's nothing I can do here. And he said, well, try something else. And then we fast forward a few years, and then 2008 happened, and there was a big downturn in the economy, especially in the semiconductors and all that. And that's when I started to say, you know, I really need to look at this more seriously and just try something, And that's when I ended up going into another company, into a medical company. And at that time, I was trying to get into Ottawa. I wasn't really so happy in Quebec anymore, and I just wanted a change. I was due for a change. And I went to that medical company, and it was the same kind of thing, working for someone else. You don't know where your job's going, and it was very insecure at that time, especially in Montreal in those days. And finally, I did not get my contract renewed, and that was through no fault of my own. And then at that point, now I'm unemployed. But what's great is for the last 2 years, I had been trying to plan an exit to get out of Quebec. And I was looking at Ottawa, and I was trying different places. And finally, one of my friends, my friend Jessica, she's in insurance. She said, well, you've never been to the Maritimes. Why don't you just take a drive with me, and you know, you'll get yourself a free trip. You could come down to Halifax. And so she quite literally, she was off to PEI first. She quite literally left me on the side of the highway at a hotel. I don't even know where it was, if it was Bedford or Burnside. To this day, I still don't know where that was. And I went into that hotel, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing here. What is going on? And it was a fun little journey. And so that at that point, I spent the entire 7 days just walking around Halifax and just taking in the sights, just seeing what was here and what was different from what I was used to in Quebec. And I just noticed right away, just everybody was so positive, so just welcoming. People will walk by on the street like, hey, how you doing? How are you? And And I'm like, I don't know you. Why are you talking to me? You know, the classic Montreal, Toronto kind of mentality. And by the second day, I said, this place is incredible. I have to move here. And that's exactly how it went. It was 48 hours later. I just decided, I was talking to my mother on the phone, and I said, I love it here. And she said, you sound like you're having fun. And I said, I love it here. And so I spent the rest of the 4 or 5 days just looking around at what kind of jobs were here, what kind of opportunities were here, but mainly what kind of business could I start. And so I was looking around, and I originally was kind of going to go towards, maybe I could do renovations, maybe I could do building inspecting. I was really into building inspecting at that time, and I had done a few building inspections for a few friends of mine, including my parents. And that's a bit of a story. When I purchased my house in Île-Perrot in Quebec, I got a professional building inspector in there, and we looked around everywhere. And at one point it was kind of cinder block, just like this, with the little lines. And I started removing the concrete in between these lines. You could just pull the concrete right out. And I said to the building inspector, is that normal? And he said, oh yeah, old houses, this is normal. I didn't think anything of it. I move into the place, and within 3 months, there are quite literally jets of water, like several meters, firing through this wall. And that's when I look down at the furnace, and there's about 2 feet of rust all around the furnace, and there's a water line all around the entire basement. And I said, oh boy, they didn't see this. And of course they came back to me and said, buyer beware, sorry man. And that's when I started studying building code, all this sort of thing. And I said, I'm gonna go and make sure other people don't get, you know, into a bad deal like this, the way I was just told, yeah, pat on the head, you're gonna be fine. So I was coming to Halifax saying, I'm going to be a building inspector. That's something I've been practicing and doing renovations and all sorts of things like that. And I said, I could be good at this. But then on that 48-hour trip, I noticed there aren't any bakeries in this whole town. My brother's a baker. My other brother's a chef. On my mother's side, we have like 7 bakers in the family. And I said, I could open a bakery. And that's kind of where it went. And so I took the train home. That was a 24-hour train ride all the way back to Montreal. And then I said, I'm gonna spend 3 days, fix up my house, or sorry, 3 weeks, fix up my house. And then that's when I put it up for sale, and I just played the waiting game. In that waiting game, I just started saying, what kind of breads can we make there? I love bagels. I didn't see any bagels. I didn't see any French breads. I didn't see a lot of things. So I started practicing. And my eldest brother, he was a baker at the time, and he had many bakers from France visiting his home. And so I made some bagels and I brought them over, and it's really funny because I do have a lot of the pictures of my first original bagels, which look terrible by today's standards. And but the batch that I brought was really good. And so now I had 5 bakers from France in a heated, screaming, yelling match as to which place they got these bagels from. And then I laughed and I said, I made them, and they couldn't believe it. So then I said, okay, I think I'm onto something. I think there's something here. So then I spent the next couple of months while I'm waiting for my house to sell. I was going to every different bakery that I could, taking pictures of prices, looking at what sells, and doing all of the things my father said, asking them, like, what is something you're always selling out of? What's something you can never make enough of? What's something that doesn't sell but you keep just because? That's those sort of questions. So I got some data, and much of it didn't apply here because there just really wasn't any big base of products to compete against that was like the same as what we had in Montreal. So I said, okay, we're going to do this. And so I moved here, and I got a little U-Haul van, sold my house, packed up everything in there. It was very emotional. It was very scary. I mean, you're basically saying, I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know anybody who's there. And it's a 16-hour drive to get to my family. And I don't really like taking planes, but I take them. So I said, I'm going to drive. I'll drive. Now I take the plane. It's not worth driving anymore. And so at that point, I got here and started looking, so I pulled up my U-Haul right into a hotel. People were like, you're crazy. You should book an apartment. You should do something. And what was really funny is at the time when I came to do the first visit, I looked in different neighborhoods and I walked up and down every street. That's all I did for 7 days. And there was one building, I pointed at it on Victoria Road. And I said, I bet you I'm going to end up in that building. I bet you. And so go back a year forward now. Now I'm sitting in this hotel in Dartmouth, and I pick up the newspaper and I'm calling different people. Where can I get a place to live? And I called 3-4 different numbers. It all went to the same person. And it was this gentleman by the name of Bob, and we're still very good friends to this day. And he said, "Did you just call the last 3 numbers?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Stop calling. It's all us. It's all the same ad." I said, okay, we'll go check it out. So I went down there. Sure enough, it was that building. And I said, okay, this is interesting. This is, I'm being guided here. So at this point, now I had a place to stay. I was on unemployment at that time. So I went through the SEED program, which is an excellent program. It's the Center for Entrepreneur something. I don't know what the acronym is, but it's CEED. And basically, they'll extend your unemployment benefits while they're teaching you how to open a business. They give you accounting advice. Very, very, very worthwhile program. And so in the meantime, too, I was making a base of friends that were also going to be entrepreneurs. So we could share the same experiences. We could, you know, if one of them needed a plumber, well, then 2 others might need a plumber. And then you could start to share resources. Very effective, very good thing. And so started doing the SEED program and met good friends there. My friend Joe, who I met there, did my wall. And that was my design. I love the color blue. So I kind of went with different blues that I like. And so, yeah, so I was here, and so we're about to like find a location. We're going to make a bagel. We're going to do something. And so then at this point, I'm practicing in my apartment. I'm trying to find equipment. I'm trying to do research. And so that was about 2 solid years. And my brother at the time, he was saying, you should just go find a job while you're doing this. And I said, you don't understand. This is a full-time job. I'm trying to source equipment. I mean, we need big mixers. Everyone here's seen the big bagel machine working. These things were difficult to find. And so as we started doing that, I still couldn't find a location, but I was sourcing all the products now. Now, I'll tell you something interesting about the bagel machine. Once I found out that this bagel machine doesn't exist anymore. Mine's from New Jersey, and I looked, and in all of Canada, there's only one place that makes them, and they're only refurbished, and they're $15,000 to start, and they go up from there. And just, again, through some stroke of luck, I found a bagel machine that had been repossessed in Portland, Oregon, of all places, so the absolute other side. And so I said, I'll take that one. And I got a great deal on it. It was only $3,500 US. So that was way better than $14,000, $15,000 plus shipping. And so set up all the shipping, got that quoted out. That's another long story too, but it's a very funny story. They ended up shipping the product, and they ended up dropping the product. So if you look up on East Coast Bakery's YouTube channel, there's actually one video there where you see a bagel machine falling over. So I ended up having to put pressure on them. They ended up voiding the shipping. Thankfully, the machine wasn't broken. And at that point, it was in a storage facility. So now I'm like, okay, I bought this machine. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Like, I'm doing this for real. Like, I don't know. Do I really want to do this still? And it's like just handing out money here and there. And I'm starting to get nervous. Like, what's the next step? I haven't even sold a bagel yet. So now I'm sitting at SEED with all these entrepreneur folks, and no joke, this really happened. I get this nudge from one of the people who was there and says, "Hey, today's your day. Today's your day. You should be so excited." I said, what do you mean? And then another one comes, "Hey, today's your day. It's a big day today." I said, "What are you talking about?" And my counselor there, the person who was helping me, she said, "Well, didn't you know today's International Bagel Day?" And I said, "What are you talking about? Today's my birthday." And he said, "You're joking." And I said, "No, it really, really is my birthday." And so we look, and I'm like, my birthday falls on, it's actually Bagels and Lox Day, February 9th. And I said, okay, good joke. All right. Okay, so maybe I'm doing the right thing. So at that point, I said, all right, I have the confidence now. Let's make this happen. And I tried to find a location. Locations are difficult. People look at you and they say, you just moved to the city, you don't have a job, you got this crazy idea to open a bakery and make bagels. That doesn't work here. That's what I kept on being told. Like, those things don't work here. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm still gonna give it a try. And so I tried to find a location. That took me almost a year. And finally, out of nowhere, I saw a Kijiji ad for the location that I'm at, and met my landlord next door. And I called him my guardian angel at the beginning, because he's just been so kind, so generous, so understanding. And I said, well, I'm going to have to cut a hole in your roof to put a vent. And he said, don't worry about it. Well, there's going to be a lot of flour. Don't worry about it. Well, there's going to be a lot of traffic and heat from the oven. It doesn't matter. And so I said, okay, wow, all right. This guy's very, very understanding. And so we started slowly putting everything together, and I have taken a lot of photos along the way, just to document this whole journey, but especially for my parents, to send them everything, because they were so far away. And that took a while. So then we started building the place. I took possession of this location in January of 2016. And so I started building this whole place, again, all by myself, didn't know anybody, no car, you know, picking up materials, having them delivered here, doing whatever, and somehow just got through it. And so then I hired a few people. Some people were walking by saying, hey, there's something going on here. What are you making? And I said, well, we're going to make a bakery, and we're going to do bagels. And so I got a few applications here and there, and that was going. So now we haven't even opened yet. And so at this point, so a lot of people are asking, well, why kosher? And I said, well, I always wanted to do that in the beginning, because I knew, number one, there was going to be a lot of people saying, well, the Montreal bagels are this and they're that, and you're Halifax, and Halifax, well, you can't make a good bagel here. We know that. And I'm like, no. We can make any kind of bagel we want over here. And so I said, we're going to do kosher because I'm going to get a broader audience, but as well, it's going to show this is the real deal. This is authentic. And my whole goal was, I want to break this myth that you can only make a good bagel here, and you can only make a good wine there, and you can only make a good doner in this area, and you know, that sort of thing. And it's like, no. Let's just let creative people do what they do, and let's just celebrate their product, not another city, a competing city on top of it. So I went with that. And so fast forward a couple days here. I'm coming home from a long day at work. I'm in my building, and I'm just going in the key. And in the lobby, there's this gentleman by the name of Oleg, who I actually talked to a couple days ago. And he was just there, and he's saying, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything. Hey, I just had some questions. I said, well, and I remember in my head, I said, I don't know what he wants. I've had a long day. Just go away. I thought that in my head. And then I said, no, wait a minute. Let's see what this is all about. And I remember having that conscious decision in my head saying, I want to see what this person has to say. So he starts telling me about, he was going around the city taking pictures of buildings, and he wanted to make an app so that if you wanted to rent a building, you could get like a tour of it inside. And great idea. And he's actually doing it. It's called Yomes, Y with Homes, Yomes. And so anyway, we start talking. We're talking, and I'm telling him what I'm doing. And he's like, oh, well, I'm Jewish, and have you ever thought of making it kosher? I said, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing, but I don't know anyone here. And so I invite him to my apartment. He's like, well, let me call my wife, let her know. I don't know, you might be a crazy guy. I said, no, I'm making bagels right now. So he ended up coming up the next day. He said, I'll come by tomorrow. So we came in, and we had bagels and lox, and we talked about it, and he said, these are fantastic. These are really, really, really good. And so then he said, I know someone who can put you in touch with, I'll put you in touch with this person, which ended up being Josh Bates, who worked for HRM. And he put me in touch with Rabbi Feldman. So all this happened within like a two-day window. And I thought back to that, and I said, if I wouldn't have given this person the time of day, this wouldn't have happened. This is, and I wanted to tell that story just to say that sometimes there's these chain of events that make magical things happen. And so at that point, we did end up opening. That was on April 12th. There was a lot of problems with opening because of some of the equipment I got was not what I ordered, and that was another thing I had to go to court and take care of. But anyway, that all got done. So been in Halifax, 2 years, already been to court twice now, but that's the way it goes. And so now I had everything ready, and I remember I had 3 people in here, and I just looked at the door, and I said, I didn't even know if we were going to open today, because we were going to just practice making the bagels, get the team ready, kind of figuring out where they're going to go from here, what the little the things you don't know that are going to creep up. And it's really funny. I look at one photo where I had everything in the store set up, and over by the boiler here, I had just like a large bowl like this. And I was like, I was going to take these out and put them in a bowl like this. And now I look at that photo and I laugh. I said, what was I thinking? Like, you just don't know these things until you go through the process. So we did everything, and it's like 7:04 a.m. We've been there since 5. It's May 12th. And I remember I looked to Becca and I said, okay, go unlock the door. And oh, I was so nervous. I was so scared. And right away, first person came in, my friend Oleg, and he said, I'm just here to support you. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And he came in, he bought a couple things. Actually, I don't even know if we had them ready. I think he was just, I don't even know if we had them ready. I can't remember, but he might've got some things by then. So this was our first day, and it didn't go so great. And you know, what can you expect? I mean, I didn't do any advertising. I still didn't have a sign up front. I still had that ugly yellow Money Mart, which I had put a banner on front saying fresh bagels made here. And then we had painted in the window, fresh bagels made here. So we're going through and we're just doing what we got to do. At this point, it's like, I'm in it. I can't take days off. And so I started working, and before you knew it, I was doing my 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And so we fast forward to, like, you know, the sixth, or I don't know if it was the second month, something like that. That's when Rabbi Feldman came here, and he said, you want to do kosher and all of that. Now, I did want to do that. Now, the one thing I didn't realize is I couldn't have any dairy. And I said, well, all these little cakes I was going to make, and maybe down the line, because originally I was thinking I don't really want to do sweets so much. I wanted to do breads, but I had no idea that, well, I knew you couldn't mix dairy and meats, but I said, well, it's bread. I don't have any meat here, so we should be fine. And that's when Basti had explained to me, no, you can't be parv unless you have no dairy. Otherwise, it's very different. And I said, okay, I can work with that. That's not a big deal. And so Rabbi Feldman came here. We turned off all the machines, all the equipment. I still have the pictures. If you look on my actually, I don't think they're on Instagram. I should send them to you. But Rabbi had put tape on all the machines, turned everything off, signed his name everywhere. And so we had to leave it idle for 24 hours. And so this was all exciting, like, hey, a day off, woohoo. And so then the following day, Rabbi Feldman came here around 3:30. Now, keep in mind, I hadn't been here that long, so I didn't know cars get towed at 4 o'clock. So you can see where I'm going with this. So Rabbi Feldman and I are here, and so we had to put the big kettle with water, and then it has to boil overflowing, and then we had to turn on all the ovens as hot as it can go, and then we had to put boiling water in all the buckets and all the utensils, and one at a time lower them, and so we're doing all of this. But before we could do all the boiling, we had to get everything before we could dip everything, we had to get everything boiling, and the oven had to be as hot as it could go. So Rabbi said, I'll be back in an hour when everything's ready. No problem, that's great. So then we look, his car's gone. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen now? I felt so guilty. I felt so bad. So Rabbi looks at me, he says, do you have a car? And I said, no, I don't. But at the time, I actually did have access to a car. So I said, okay, let's go. So here I am. I've never met this man before, and we're just driving around making an adventure out of this day. And so I drove all the way to their house, and then he got his other car. He had to go get his car from the impound. His car had been towed and impounded. So he didn't know when he was coming back, and I'm looking at my shop saying, I left all the ovens on, everything's on full blast. Like, am I gonna burn the place down? I'm like, what's gonna go wrong now? And so we waited about 2 hours, and then Rabbi Feldman came back. And at that point, the process started. Now, and the rabbi, I had these nice gloves. They were completely silicone. I say, here, use these. You're burning yourself, Rabbi. You're burning yourself. So he took those gloves, and so we started dipping everything, and we were here till, oh my goodness, it was almost 10 p.m. And so then I said, okay, we're done. I said, keep those gloves. He says this, and he said, this was the first time I ever did a koshering where I didn't burn myself. I said, keep them. It's my gift to you. I feel so bad about the towing. And so anyway, we get to the end and everything. We're saying our thanks and goodbyes and all that. And then Rabbi Velvet says to me, here, let's take a selfie. And I just laugh. I'm like, where did you learn that word? You know, I'm laughing. And so we're trying to do this thing in the window. And I look at the window, and there's like 5 people who have been watching for like some time. So finally I invited those people in. I said, could you take a proper picture of us? And so again, there was a nice little buzz going on. People were like, what's going on over there? So that had been done. And so that's when it just started moving forward. We started with the 3 bagels, very plain, sesame, poppy, and plain. And a lot of people were saying, this isn't a proper bakery. You need more things. And I said, listen, I'm just starting. There are no other bakeries in town. I have to start somewhere. And the whole point of that is that, like, for the first few months, it was heavy losses, like $7,000-8,000 negative for salaries. I'm not even getting paid yet. And so slowly but surely, once we perfect one thing, we moved on to the next thing. And then by October, we opened in May. By October, we added the salt bagel. And then the next month, the everything bagel, which I call the all in instead of everything or all dress. I said all in, like you're at the casino, like I'm all in. And that was, I had done that just as kind of a reminder to remind myself, like, there's no turning back. It started. You can't just walk away from this 2 weeks from now. You're ruined. There's no anything. There's no going back. And so just keep pushing forward. And then that's when, at that point, the sign, I started going outside with the sign, and just, it started with just holding a plate, and I had like a sign in the window. Then I was holding a sign with a plate saying free samples. Then I ended up getting this branding done, and then I had it made on a big sign, and then I just like hold it around like that, and it was getting a lot of people in. And just over the course of about 500 days, I just started getting more and more creative with that sign, and it was getting more and more people in. Now, going forward about 3 months from there, then that's when I got on CBC, then CTV wanted to do something, and then Global did a little spot on me, and then like there was just a whole bunch of different media outlets that were saying, oh, who is this guy? Why is he out front? What's with the bagels? And that started bringing people in, and it just shows sometimes what you have to do in order to get it done. So if you were to go back 2 years ago from that point and say, hey, in 6 months you're gonna be throwing a sign and all this stuff, I was like, you're crazy. Like, that's never gonna happen. But looking back at it, it was probably one of the best promotional things that I could have done. And so the point on that is that you just have to keep your options open and just go with the flow, and you be like the river. You go with the tides and you move with it, and you get through everything eventually. There's no challenges that we can't overcome. We just have to just be positive and keep going with it. So at that point, yeah, we had gotten on a lot of these different TV things, and there was even a forget what it was called. It was, oh yeah, Tell Your Story Canada. It was for Canada 150. So they ended up doing a thing with that, and that ended up getting on a commercial. And so now this point, my brother, who's in Quebec, tells me that he just got a call from his friend from France, who's in Alberta, who said he just saw me on TV. And I said, I didn't even tell that brother about that ad. I didn't even know it was on TV at that point. So that was bringing in people. And then at one point, this was the first summer after. So I started in May. The following summer, I started getting people coming in saying, I saw you on TV in Ottawa a year ago, and this was the first place I wanted to check out when I got here. I mean, when you think of that, it's just so incredible, just the progression of how everything moved forward. Like, what an exciting journey this has been. So now looking back and saying, you know, should I have gone to a job where I would have been working at a desk or you know, doing building inspections? It would have worked out, but I wouldn't have been having the fun that I'm having now, and servicing the community, like even the whole community, but as well the Jewish community. I do have on my cell phone a picture of a screenshot from 2014 where it said temples in Nova Scotia, and they're all along Quinpool, which is why I picked Quinpool. And so I was really, really lucky with how I kind of made that happen. But it wasn't all easy. Now, looking back at last year when they closed the street, that was really, really tough on us. And it was okay because I said, well, I'm just going to have to retool and just go in a different direction. I remember specifically at that time, my parents, both of them were saying, we'll send you some money. We'll send you $4,000. They don't have a lot of money. And they just said, we'll send you $4,000. It'll help you get by. And I said, no, don't. If you send me money, then it's just putting off the problem. What I need to do is become profitable immediately. I need to be able to pay my bills just to stay open, and being injected money like that, it's not going to help. And they said, all right, I hope you know what you're doing. So again, that's when we started adding the challah, then the cookies, and then more cookies, and then the brownies, and then slowly but surely the baguettes and the sourdoughs. And you know, it was the right way to go about it. It was the right thing to do. You know, you walk before you can run. Now I look back, I look at today, and I wasn't even in the shop today or yesterday. My employees are taking care of everything, and I'm very blessed to have amazing people that I can rely on all the time. And so it just, every single business owner has told me, within the 4th year, it starts to get better. The 5th year, it starts to get really like stable and easy. And I am seeing that now. Of course, now we're looking at COVID and things have changed, but again, you have to take that as an opportunity. And so right when COVID started, it was March 16th, I think the lockdown was. Well, on March 17th, I was on Breakfast Morning, and I was on again at the following Tuesday. So right away, again, it was like, we are open, we're taking all necessary measures, and it's just like, turn it into an opportunity. And so we got more people coming in saying, well, all the other bakeries aren't open, and well, we'll try you out. And then once people tried things, they said, this is amazing, I'm coming back. So it's slowly, small little steps. Like my old vice president, he used to tell me, he said, the largest tree can get cut down with just one chop at a time. You just keep going every day. It might take 10 years, might take 20 years, but one chop a day, you can take down the biggest tree. And that's exactly what having a small business is like. And it could be, you could translate that into anything. It could be, you know, going for school or studying or, you know, remodeling a home. It's just small steps, but always move forward in a positive direction. So now we get to COVID. At this point, flour is starting to become a problem. Flour, there's shortages everywhere. And so I called up my friends at Hot Country and I said, why don't we do this? We're going to give away flour and yeast. And they said, well, I don't know if people are going to go for that. So I ended up ordering yeast, and we go through a case every 2 weeks. So it's like large bricks. They look like a pound of butter, but it's just Fleischmann's fresh yeast. And so I ended up getting 5 cases, which is four cases more than what I need for the next 2 weeks. And I said, we're going to give away this yeast. So, because people were asking all the time, and we do sell yeast always, but now we were going to give it away. And so I put an ad on Instagram. I must have gotten 1,500 calls within an hour. It was ridiculous. It was unmanageable. We would hang up the phone and it would be ringing in my hand, and it would be like, you have yeast, put it aside. We'll be right there. And I'm like, first come, first serve. Can't do that. Hit the phone and it's already ringing. So I called the radio station. I said, this is what's going on. You need to listen to me. This is what's happening. So they said, all right, fine. We'll try it in the evening show. So I put it on the evening show. They were flooded. And I was giving 5 kilos of flour and 1 block of yeast. Free. 9th caller, something like this. They got flooded. By the next day, they said, we're going to do this in the morning and in the afternoon. And they ended up doing that promo for 3 weeks, which when you translate it into dollars, I mean, a promo like that on the radio would cost you upwards of $9,000 to $12,000. I did it for a couple bags of flour and yeast, and they were telling me at the radio station, the amount of people that were coming back saying, this is the most amazing promo. We're stuck at home. We now have baked goods. We're getting the kids involved. We're doing all sorts of fun things. It was just so positive all around. But as well, I got those people to come pick up the flour here at the store instead of at the radio station, which made them very happy as well. At the same time, they get to see what's going on here. It was such a success, that promo. Really, really big success. So it's just amazing. It's just amazing, all of the things that have happened, all of the small little steps. I mean, there haven't been too many like big hiccups. I mean, I had my roof leaked a little bit. That's normal. We had the street closed. It is what it is. We had COVID. That's another one. It is what it is. But whatever doesn't get you down, just keep going forward, and it'll make you better and stronger. Yeah, it's just been such an amazing ride, and just so much support from the community. Another thing that I firmly believe in is if you get your community involved, they will support you sometimes more than necessary. Some of the generosity that we've received here is just, it makes us so surprised sometimes. I mean, I had one point, somebody had actually ordered a pizza and sent it to us, and I was like, who did this? I mean, no idea. So we ate that next door, but it's just like, who does that? And it just really nice. What I'm thinking for the future for this bakery is what I want to do, and this is going to be a couple years from now, but I want to make almost like those little chocolates, like Laura Siccar. We'd be nut-free, dairy-free, kosher parv, peanut-free. So I think that sort of a bakery would really go well, but as well as on an online, from an online perspective, I think it would work, because I don't know any chocolate places that don't have any nuts. And the whole nut-free thing happened because my brother, his wife, and his kids are very allergic. And there's so many places that you go to that the food's literally deadly for certain clientele. And so if you're sending cookies to a home, or even to a school or to an office, people who have allergies are very worried to try those things. So me having that in my family, as well as all of the products being kosher, there's very little contamination with almost anything. Like, we get our raisins come straight from the farm that they're grown on. The flour comes straight from the producer. So it was kind of like already going in that direction anyway. So I said, again, another beautiful opportunity to yet again involve yet another community. And so now we have a humongous following of parents who are allergic, and who have children who are allergic, and they're just supporting us like crazy. So if you were to go back 4 years, because we've almost been here now 4.5 years, go back 4 years ago and say, these are the steps to get there. You can't do that. You don't even know what's coming ahead 3 months from now. So it's kind of interesting when people look years later and they say, well, you know, you're really lucky to have all this. Yes, it's luck, but it wasn't luck. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of conscious decisions along the way that made it happen. So it's just been a lot of fun. It's really been a lot of fun. And if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer some questions, but that's basically the story of how I got from there to here.
Wow, Gerry, thank you so much for sharing that with us. What an incredible story. I didn't even realize the story was that good when I asked you to share it with us.
Thank you.
So we're really appreciative. We're going to open it up to questions, but I'm going to
Absolutely.
because I have the floor and I'm so curious. So you made the decision to start making challah, and you know I'm like the biggest fan of your challah. I honestly, I mean, it's everything you make is unbelievable, but your challah hits a sweet spot for me. So how did you find that recipe? Did it take a lot of practice? Like, how did you get to the process of making challah and making it be a staple in your bakery?
Okay, so the challah, I've been making that one since I was a little kid, because at my house, my mother was one of 12, so there was a lot of make it at home, make it, you know, yourself. Like, there's so many things that I have never even tried. Like, a couple months ago, I tried a hamburger helper for the first time in my life. I was not that great, but we never ate any of these kind of things at home. I mean, if we had cabbage rolls, we made them from scratch with cabbage from the garden. If we have egg rolls, we made them from scratch. Like, everything was from scratch. from burritos to you name it, everything. So we were always kind of just folding little things at home, and I was always in the kitchen with my mother. So when it came to making bread, our bread wasn't phenomenal at home because, again, you don't have the big ovens and all that. On an industrial scale, everything works a lot better. I couldn't even make the baguettes we make here at home. It's not going to happen. My oven's just not good enough. So that recipe was an older recipe that my mother had, which was just an Easter bread. And we always liked it. And I used to often make it into the buns, as you know, in my store. I used to make them like that at home, but they never turned out as nice as in this store. I'll tell you that right now. It never turned out that nice. So yeah, one day I just said, you know what, I'm going to make this bread. Every time I made it at home, people always loved it. I always gave that away as gifts. That was another thing my mother always used to do, was like take like something like Rice Krispies and just melt chocolate and then make little balls with them, and then you give those as gifts or you know, as a thank you. So it's a nice little thing to do. And so I would make those breads and give those as well. And so then it was just one day I just said, I'm gonna just start making that here, and it took off right away. That's actually another thing too, is that everyone started to try that as well, especially the Jewish community, but everyone else, and they would say, this is amazing. This is like a Greek Easter bread, like a tsoreki. And I'm like, oh, it's like a tsoreki. And then I started getting in a lot of Chinese students. They said, this is a Hong Kong bread. This is mianbao, which is why I put mianbao in the Chinese symbols. And that was another funny thing. Once I did that, I started getting all the Chinese students in here, and I had other Chinese owners tell me, I don't understand how you're getting this kind of clientele. You know, typically the Chinese community will just kind of go with what they know. And I said, but I put the sign there in their language to invite them in. And still to this day, I would say 1/3 of my customers are from the Chinese community, and they just love the bread. Like, what's not to love, right? And so it's just those, again, crossing those little lines and welcoming people in. It just brought it all together. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to hop into the question and answer from the community. And first I'm going to ask Phil Belitsky. Phil, if you can hear me, you emailed me in a question, but because you're on the phone, if you would like to ask it yourself, just go ahead and unmute yourself. So Phil, take it away.
Thanks so much, Naomi. Wonderful story. Enjoyed it immensely. There's something missing, though, from your repertoire.
What's that?
Especially coming from Montreal. We miss it immensely, those of us from Montreal who have lived here long enough. Rye bread.
Oh, rye bread. We do rye bread.
I haven't seen it. You do it now?
I do it with caraway and without. We don't do it every day because it's not incredibly popular. But if you call us and give us a day's notice, we will 100% do it for you.
So that's the old Montreal style rye bread.
It's kind of like, I was going for kind of the Snowden Bakery style.
Sounds good. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks for the
you go.
Do you like yours with caraway or without?
Without.
I love with caraway, but we do both.
I think with caraway, we called it Kimmel.
That's right. Yeah, Kimmel. Yeah.
All right. Let it be known there is rye bread available. Okay. So for everyone else, when you have a question to ask, please actually press the raise your hand button. That way I'll be able to see it right away, and then you can unmute yourself. So does anyone have a question for Gerry? Erwin, go ahead. I see you raising your hand. Erwin? Erwin, sorry, you're on mute. You're just gonna have to unmute yourself. There you go.
It was a great story, Gerry. I love stories like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any, in the future, are you going to have a cafe style like situation in your place? Because a lot of people are asking, why can't we go and sit down, order bagels and eggs and tea and coffee instead of going to Tim Hortons? It seems like you're missing a big market.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. I have a couple problems in this location. There's the heat. It's very hot in here. I don't have a lot of space up front. But additionally, if I did coffees and things like that, well, then there'd be problems with cross-contamination with milk products and then sandwiches. Then it would be difficult to maintain kosher as well as do like a full-fledged cafe. So
Okay.
my goal went in a different direction, because then if people will say, well, how come I can't get, you know, tuna on rye or salmon, or so I basically said I'll make my goal was never to make the best restaurant. I wanted to make a supply chain. And so now, right now, I service so many different cafes and restaurants. Like, for example, the Henry House, they'll get several dozen challah buns every single day. I have Birch and Anchor, they're buying dozens of baguettes every single day. And I have other restaurants, they're buying, you know, 20 dozen of this and that and the other thing every single day. So when you start to add those together, I'm missing out on one segment, but I'm producing enough to keep the whole area stocked with good bread. So eventually I would like to expand even more. As right now, we don't even have a night shift. So once the demand is there, we can start to just produce more and more and more and get the quality up, and then let the restaurants who can focus on hospitality give them the best service. If I had a table out front, it could be doable, but it wouldn't be the experience that somebody who's going to a cafe is really looking for. It's not what we do, really.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. It makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
No problem.
All right, thank you so much, Gerry. Inbal Bahar, you're next, so please unmute yourself. And I should say that Inbal gets the credit because Gerry, Inbal was the one who suggested that you would have an interesting story, and she was absolutely right. So thank you, Inbal.
Awesome, thank you.
This is actually, it's not a question, just a comment. I want to say that the challah buns from the East Coast Bakery are really good, and they are like my favorite food. So thank you.
Thank you.
I second that. So thank you so much, Daphna. Joey Sadowski, you had a question?
Yeah, I have several. The way, Gerry, it's very interesting listening to your story from Montreal. I have a few things I wanted to tell you, but there's three people that are on this on here tonight. One, Rennie Dankner, Lois Levine, and Joel Jacobson, who will probably remember the story I'm about to tell you, that before you came to Halifax, many, many years ago, there was a bakery called D&R Bakery. And the D stands for Dankner, and the only Dankner that's left there is Rennie. So it was Maizeda, and it was the first kosher bakery east of Montreal. He came from Montreal as well as you did. And back in his day, he was the president of the Bakers Association in Montreal.
Oh, wow.
And so it was interesting. And so how his success got going, I don't know, because I wasn't born when he came to Halifax and started the bakery. So, but one day a gentleman by the name of, I don't think anybody on this will remember his name, it was a guy named Frank Sobey. Walked into his store, his bakery, it was on Roby Street, and said, I want to buy breads from you. And it didn't matter to him that they were kosher or not. He wanted the rye breads. He wanted the black breads. He wanted the challahs. By the way, you got to learn to say challah properly. Challah, not challah.
Challah.
Okay? It gives you away. So anyways, that's how it all started. My uncles, who, if you need to know some more about bakery, one of them is still alive. His name is Mike Maravich. He's in the seniors home in Halifax. He could give you some recipes now, because until he got too old, he used to make challahs for us and in his kitchen at home. So there's a source of information for you. While he's still around, you should take a chance and visit with him.
That's beautiful.
You're carrying on a good legacy, Gerry. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead, Joey.
Absolutely, for sure. And growing up in Montreal, you must remember that on Van Horn Bakery, they had this big poster. It says, you don't have to be Jewish to enjoy bagels.
Exactly.
Right, so maybe you should reinvent that poster and just put it up in your store in Halifax to get more people coming. But another interesting thing, next time you go home to Montreal, you have to go to a place on Bernard and Park Avenue. It's called Boulanger Chesky's. He's an interesting story because if you go there, when you visit, it's just a reminiscent of my Zeta's Bakery in Halifax. He's a New York boy that came to Montreal. And in the Orthodox community, they bring people to get married, not from the same city. So they brought this gentleman from New York, and he started, and the Quebec government's financed it going. So there's some great ideas that you could go there and learn, and different things he does. People could line up on to get into his bakery. Can you imagine? So that'd be a place you might drop into as well. Halifax is very fortunate that you decided to leave Montreal and come there, because there's nothing more when it comes to food. Bread's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
As a side note, my mother would never finish a meal, no matter what restaurant we've been visiting. It could be the fanciest restaurant to a regular restaurant. She had to have a piece of bread at the end of her meal. So bread is always where it's supposed to be. And again, it's nice that you came to Halifax and you brought that to the community. I have one last question. When you talk about challahs, do you make the twisted challah?
It's just bread, right?
Breaded one? Yeah. You have that in your store, or your bakery rather?
Oh,
yes,
he does.
Oh, so how did you learn to make that? I used to watch my Zeta do it. I don't know how.
I was making those as a little kid with my mother.
Yeah? Wow. Okay. Anyways, good luck to you, and
thank you.
All the way from Toronto, or by the way, making the rye bread. Just another side story. My cousin Larry Marovich is the mashgiach at Sobeys store here in Toronto, and he was telling the story how Sobeys started having challahs and rye breads and all that back with my Zeta, and the baker was telling him that they don't make the rye bread the same way that Larry knew the recipe or how it was done as they did in Halifax. So, but I'm with you. I like my rye bread with Kimmel on a smoking sandwich. Rabbi Flynn, what you do in your store.
Thank you so much, Joey. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Gerry?
People keep knocking on the door because the lights are on, eh? People just banged on the door again.
Esther, did I see you raising your hand, Esther?
I don't know where to hit the button to say I want to raise my hand. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, can you ship frozen or across, because I'm in the Yarmouth area, and I kind of ended up with a cafe bakery that has no one in it. So could you deliver or ship that things would still be kind of fresh? Because it's a long distance, right?
It's a long distance. That's another thing that we do want to get, because I do have a lot of requests right now in both Annapolis Royal, as well as out in Cape Breton, as well as, like, right now we're starting to do Burnside area. It all comes down to shipping and volume. We don't have a delivery truck dedicated to go across the area, and if I was to put them in Canada Post, it costs a lot of money.
It would have to be delivered, but it's never totally fresh, because I would have
exactly. I'm hoping that's a year 5, year 6 kind of goal. I'm just gonna have to see where it's going. With COVID, everything slowed down, and as a business owner, you would know exactly. It's tough times right now, so we just have to kind of save our money as much as we can and cut our costs as much as we can and survive this. We will get through this. It's not going to be easy, but you know what? A lot of what's going on right now is we're figuring out where we might do better, and the things that aren't doing so good, we're just eliminating slowly. So, you know, it's just hang in there.
I would train someone and send them down here to bake. It's all there. Equipment's all there.
That's an idea too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about that offline. I don't know about anyone here per se, but if anyone, yeah, I would be willing to have someone come up here and train. I would be okay with that. I would be up for that.
Well, no, send someone as it. I just ended up with a bakery. I'm not working there.
No, but if you send me one of your people and then I teach them and then send them back.
I have to find one first.
Because I'd have to find someone here who wants to move there, you know?
They're all on unemployment here and they don't want to work. I've tried.
That's the trouble. That's the trouble. It's tough right now, and people are worried. People are very nervous. They're anxious. It's tough right now.
I'm not anxious enough to come back to work.
I'm going through some of those issues myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Food is always important. I can't see they're an issue, but
these are very, very strange times.
A point I wanted to make as well is that as far as bakeries go, when just go back 25, 35 years ago, there were bakeries everywhere, and even places like Tim Hortons used to bake in-house, and Dunkin' Donuts, all these places, right? They would bake everything there from A to Z and cook it there, and it was wonderful. And then Tim Hortons slowly started to do a commissary model where everything's made in Toronto, shipped frozen, and then we just put it on a shelf and we put it underneath a red light, and I'm a baker. And that has been going on all through the 90s and early 2000s. And I feel like this industry is finally starting to bounce back. People are finally starting to say the quality got so bad that now they just went anywhere else. And they're realizing, wow, the quality is that much better. I do get a lot of people come in and say, this is like bread like when I was a little kid. And a lot of the older European folks, people come from across the pond, come over here, and they'll tell me that often. They'll say, this is like my grandmother used to make from across every culture.
For sure. Okay, I think we're going to do 2 more questions. So if anyone has a burning last question, please raise your hand and I will try and see it. Jeff, you had a question, and then Joel will do you next. Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, Gerry. How you doing? Really happy customer here. As you know, I've had pretty much everything in your shop, and I think that my wife and I are responsible for a third of your early distribution, and proud to be as popular as you are. There is an age-old question that I'm going to force upon you here, Gerry. As a bagel aficionado, you must draw a line in the sand, and I'm not a Montrealer, but I know people on the call that are. Gerry, is it Fairmount or is it San Vieto in your mind?
It's kind of both. It's kind of both, because I've always preferred the Fairmont poppy seed, and I always prefer the San Vieto sesame.
A true diplomat. A true diplomat.
It's true. And if I'm having lox, it's always on a poppy seed, never a sesame, ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever.
Good to know. Poppy. You heard it here first, folks. Okay, Joel Jacobson, why don't you take us home with the final question of the night?
Okay, one last question. Gerry, you mentioned about expanding into a candy type of shop, making chocolates and that sort of thing. Any chance of extending this store and opening a branch, or are you thinking even about franchising?
What I was thinking about is hopefully when everything's back to normal, getting another location where we could just sell out of. So it wouldn't be made there, but we would be shipping throughout the day. Mm-hmm. That is definitely something we're being asked for, especially in Clayton Park. We're getting asked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to that day. Let me just take a minute and on behalf of everyone here say thank you, Gerry. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Both for sharing your unbelievable story and your passion, and for bringing your bakery to Halifax. We're so appreciative. You've done so much for our community. We love supporting you. As you know, from a Jewish community perspective, we support you whenever we can. I'm in there all the time, and it's my favorite place to spot Jews is at East Coast Bakery. Yeah. So
a lot of people come here and they always meet someone they know, and everyone before COVID, we would have people sometimes hang around for an hour in the front, like all day long, all the time.
That doesn't surprise me.
We love that. We love that.
Doesn't surprise me. I want to thank everyone on this call for coming and for hearing Gerry's story. We hope you enjoyed it so much. We're actually coming to close to the end of this speaker series, but we've got 2 more incredible speakers lined up for you for the month of August. One is Elizabeth Lauder, who's actually, I believe, was on this call or is on this call right now. Elizabeth is a meteorologist who lives in St. John's, Newfoundland, and is going to talk to us a little bit about her story. And then our final conversation of the season, of the summer, is going to be Erwin Lampert, who actually spoke to us several weeks ago about his work in China and is going to speak to us in a couple of weeks about his work as a judge in New Brunswick. So we're so grateful to everyone who has taken the time to share your story. If I leave you with one message here tonight, if you're in Halifax, go see Gerry as soon as you can. If you're not from Halifax, when the bubble comes down and you can come visit, come to Quinpool. You will not be disappointed. It is delicious, delicious stuff. And then you always get to see Gerry, which is a fun piece of it as well. So if everyone on the call can please unmute yourself and join me in giving Gerry a round of applause. Thank you so much, Gerry.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We're so appreciative. I'm going to email everyone on the call a little bit more information about Gerry, about the store with their hours, Gerry, if that's okay. And hopefully I'll see you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your night. And thank you so much again, Gerry. We really
thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Naomi.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now. I don't know if it's because it doesn't grasp the severity of the pandemic